You're listening to Field Day with Katie Black.
Okay, what up, you guys? Welcome to Field Day with Katie Black. I'm honored today I have with me
Glenn Parker, 12-year NFL vet and veteran broadcaster.
What up? Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
The first kind of weird icebreaker is I looked up your birthday and see that you're a Taurus. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. If you believe in such things, that's what I am.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Do you pay any attention or like absolutely not?
No, I don't know. It's just not a big deal to me.
No,
I'm glad I'm a Taurus rather than some weak sign, but
That's funny. I understand that. Were you born and raised in California?
I was born and raised in Huntington Beach, California. My birth certificate says Westminster because at the time Huntington Beach Hospital was so small they didn't have a natal unit. And my mom worked at the other hospital, said, no, we're going here. But other than that, I've been born and raised in Huntington Beach and left there to go to college.
So first of all, going back, at what point in your youth do you start playing sports or realizing that you're very good at it?
I started playing every sport at about age 7 or 8. I played flag football, I played Little League baseball, and I played rec league basketball. And I was a good basketball player. I became a very good basketball player later towards high school and just thereafter. Flag football, I was a very good player in baseball as well. But at the age of 14, everybody was maturing and getting strong and bigger, and all of a sudden I was left behind. I was a very late bloomer, and I was a little too immature to play high school football. I just didn't like it. I didn't like coaches screaming at me. I didn't like, especially when the coach is like 300 pounds, he's yelling, you're out of shape. It's like, this guy can't even do a push-up, I'm not sure how he does other things in his daily routine. It was that bad. So, but I don't think I could have held grades together and done it all at that age. I just wasn't mature enough. And then after high school, I was working as a bouncer. I was underage, and I'd play basketball at the courts all the time with a bunch of NBA and ex-NBA guys. And that's why I knew I was better there, because I was always kind of the guy they would bring in because I didn't have an ego. I wasn't trying to be an NBA guy. I just liked playing the game. And where I worked, all the Rams came in, and almost within probably months of each other, they asked me, why wasn't I doing something at my age in sports? Why wasn't I playing at a college or even a junior college? And, I'm working my way through a JC, trying to get to a college. I realized, I'm bouncing, I'm working all night, I'm tired. It's really going to be a hard way to make it through college. And, so with kind of that in mind, with the way they were talking, I started looking at guys that I was playing basketball against that played at the JC football, the JC I was going to, and the football team, and realizing I was a much better athlete than them. I'm the same size as them, and yet they're getting scholarships. So honestly, I didn't have any dream above a scholarship. I just wanted, I was looking at Carroll College, Montana, any D3 or D2. I didn't know how it all worked. And I just didn't care. As long as I got it paid for, I was going to be very happy. And it wasn't until I talked to the O-line coach, who I thought was a head coach. When I went in, I thought I might go for tight end or D end. And he goes, I'm the line coach. You're going to be a left tackle. And so that's what I ended up becoming in junior college, was a left tackle. And but he started me on this path of thinking bigger. And it wasn't so much that he believed I would do it. He goes, you have to believe that whatever you're doing is not the end of the line, or else you'll stop. He goes, if you just want a scholarship, you'll get to school, you'll be happy, you won't be a good football player, and then I'll have a bad reputation. He goes, I don't understand why you're not saying I want to go to the NFL. And I said, well, are you? And to tell you the truth, I thought he was being a dick. I thought, why is this guy? Yeah, I know I've never played. He goes, yeah, you've never played before, and you want to play in college. He goes, so you might as well think of the NFL instead. And I was very blessed that when I went in and I had the head coach, that O-line coach, and an O-line assistant, and all of them had played college football at a high level. They were all great coaches, and they taught me the game since I didn't have any baggage. I didn't have any bad habits. I didn't have a knowledge beyond watching on TV and playing flag football as a kid. They taught me the game very differently. They taught me to look from the outside in, immediately find my safeties. Where are they? because that's going to tell you the way defense is going to move and where they're going to be. And they taught me all these things. And for me, it's like learning a new language. If you were to walk into an offensive line room the way I did when I'm 20 years old, football speak is a language. And if you don't understand it, it takes you that much longer. So I had to, it's like immersive foreign language training. That's what it was for me. Go into this room, everybody's talking football, and I don't really know what they're saying other than bits and pieces. But you learn it and you get through it. And the coaches were great about teaching me concepts within the way they spoke. And so, I sat on the bench for a year and watched. And then my second year got hurt in camp and then started the last 7 games. And I had my choice of places to go. So for me, I really wanted the Pac, at that point, the Pac-10. I'd grown up watching Pac-8 football, USC and Cal, Stanford. Those were teams I loved. And I was lucky that I shouldn't say I was lucky. I planned on the Pac-10 once I realized I was being recruited like that. Mm-hmm. USC was the very first to offer me, and that's when I wasn't even playing. They saw me at practice and offered. And I thought, wow, there's something to this. And then I understood why my coach, Dennis Dixon and Alex Gerke, had said, why not the NFL? Because they didn't want me going to one of these good schools like they had gone to and then just being happy that I got a uniform. And now having coached in college only for 1 year, but also been around it, it's amazing how many kids are simply happy to get to college and have a uniform and get the team gear. They really don't want to play football. They find they like college life a lot better without football. Mm-hmm. But they're there for the uniform. They're there just to have fun. And that always bothered me as a player. It bothered me when I coach. It's too hard a life if you're not going to go all out and to play that game. So anyways, I narrowed it down to a few schools and the reason, people say, well, why Arizona if you had the choice of I had USC and Oregon and Tennessee and a few others. And I said, well, because every coach that came to my house in Huntington Beach showed up in a suit and tie. And Dick Tomey did his homework. He knew who he was recruiting. He had been in Hawaii before he got to Arizona. He really did a good job of recruiting a lot of the Polynesian players. But you could tell he did his homework when he talked to the coaches and found out that I was a surfer, and that's pretty much what I did. He showed up at my house in shorts, flip-flops, and a Hawaiian shirt. That's where I'm going. Oh. That's my guy right there. And it turned out to be a great choice.
That's an amazing kind of interesting way that you just, I know I kept saying organically, but an organic way of you getting into this, world essentially.
Yeah. It was, I guess, mixed parts of inspiration from some people I looked up to and respected to you get that inspiration. Then you just say, okay, I'm also desperate. So inspiration and desperation led me to
combination.
Yeah. And then, the old saying is, people say follow your passion. I think that's probably the worst advice anyone's ever given anybody. All you have to do is look at American Idol, right? Or any of those. And there are thousands of people that say, my passion is making music and I'm going to do this. And then they get up on stage and they're absolutely horrible. So they're following their passion. Mm-hmm. It's better to find what you're good at and develop a passion for it. And I will be the first to admit, through my first 4 or 5 years in the NFL, I didn't have a passion to play, but I was good. And then once I realized that I needed to have a passion for what I was doing, I became a much better football player. And once that happened, my longevity in the game certainly went through it. And then I got into broadcasting and coaching because I did develop that passion for a game that, to tell you the truth, I think my teammates would probably agree with you, my college teammates, that I didn't have a necessary passion for the game. I loved playing, but it wasn't my end all.
So basically, once you're at Arizona, the whole time, do you have the NFL mindset of this is what I'm going to do?
I think I wanted to, but I didn't know what the probability was until the draft of '89, when a couple of teammates on our offensive line, Joe Toffelmeyer and Rob Woods, got drafted. And their agent was talking, it was there, and I met him and was talking to people. And right after the draft, my brother sent me a clipping out of SI. Now, for anybody listening, they know how old I am. So, no phones, no text. It was a clipping out of Sports Illustrated magazine. And it was top 5 offensive linemen for next year. And I was in that list. And then I thought that's when it became real. And that summer, my roommate and I, and my best friend, we ate better. We worked our tails off, ran like crazy, showed up in shape, and had a great season. So it really became real just after my first year at Arizona, going into my second.
Well, I know that you got drafted in 1990. Is that correct?
Yeah. Right.
And so I always ask it, guys, and I'm sure it's hard to put it in a nutshell, but like, what is getting drafted like?
You obviously it's stress because you're being told when you're going to go. They think, and this is by all best guesses. Well, also the year we came out on, it was the first year juniors could come out, and so a whole bunch of juniors got drafted early, and most of them never panned out. So I think I personally slipped some, according to what my agent had thought and what his friends in the NFL had thought, and according to the team that drafted me. They didn't think I'd be there. They didn't need a lineman early. They thought they'd wait. And so I went through round one, and I'm thinking, okay, and that year only 2 offensive linemen went in the first round. Normally there's 5. Then the next round came and went, and again, only 1 or 2 linemen went. And then once the third round started going, I got picked. Any other draft, number 5 offensive lineman, but also number 2 tackle would have been a first round pick. So it's stressful. And you can tell I'm still I got a little bitterness over it, especially when you look back, because you do, and every player does this, when they talk to Emmett Thomas or Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas, they look back who was drafted above them at their position or at all. And they can go, well, I had a better career than almost all those guys. Now, my draft, number 16 or 17 pick overall was Emmitt Smith. So I didn't have a better career than him. But of all the linemen picked, we all had very similar careers, if not almost identical, 10 to 12 years each, starting most of our games. So in the end, I went to the right place at the right time. And you really can't complain.
So for those that don't know, Buffalo Bills, so you go to the East Coast. Any thoughts or a different vibe?
I get there in May. I don't know anything about Buffalo at all. I've never been west of the Rockies other than for a game or something. So I don't know much at all. I've never been to New York City. Never been to anywhere in New York or Pennsylvania at that point. And I get there and we have a mini camp May 16th, and it snowed on us. And I thought, okay, I'm going to die. I didn't even own a pair of pants. I owned flip-flops, shorts, a couple pairs of shorts, and probably 5 T-shirts. And I thought, this is May, when summer began, and but I stayed there. I worked out, got ready for camp, got my contract signed. And it was one of my very first mini camps, I was like, the natural thing you do as a player when you're brought into a situation, whether it's when you get out of JC into a college or when you go to the NFL, you start counting guys. Okay, where do I fit in? Okay, I'm getting reps here and there. I know I'm better than these guys. Or you can look at the film and know you're doing better. But then you get to camp and you can't count guys, even though you want to. You want to start counting everybody to see where they're. At one point, one of the vets said to me before camp even started, he goes, Glenn, you're a 3rd round pick. They just gave you a lot of money. They're not cutting you. But I kind of always had this fear of getting cut. And I think it probably helped me survive as long as I did in the league, because I always had to make sure I was better than the other guys. And there's a quote that I gave our strength coach one time. He said, I don't have to be the best. I just got to be better than most. And if that'll keep me on the roster. So that was kind of my mentality throughout my career.
Yeah, 12 years is a long time.
Yeah. My body feels every one of them, trust me.
Well, that's what sometimes I try to ask, with everyone to share. But I mean, are you an individual that, because of your years in the NFL or just sports in general, that are you constantly kind of in pain?
Yeah, I think anybody that plays football above high school is in pain a lot. And then having played as long as I did, yeah, I've got some joint replacements and I've got some things going on, but it affects sleep and whatnot. But in reality, I don't know anybody that would trade it. I know once in a while I hear somebody say, if I knew this was going to do it to me, I would have never play to it. I'm like, that's so disingenuous. You dream of doing something, you do it, you're paid handsomely for it. There's no better life in the world than competing every day in a job like that where you're physical and you can be a man and you can go and be violent and be all the things you want to be.
Well, so I am just a kid that's always studied pop culture and fame and limelight, whatever industry that may be. And so I was curious, do you feel like what was it like to kind of step into that NFL spotlight? Do you start looking around with who's surrounding you, or you never let that get to you, or what was that like?
The game is so, you have to focus so hard on your job at the level that you don't really notice the crowd. The first time I noticed the crowd at all happened to be in college at Oklahoma, because it was the first time we played, a huge stadium. And you're like, wow, this is fun. But once the game's going, you don't have time to think about anything. You're playing the game. And since I was a rookie and went right into a starting role and playing a lot, there's just no time to think about what it is you're doing, in front of whom you're doing it, or how many people are watching, because you're too busy with that guy across from you who's trying to kill you. So you become so focused, it doesn't matter. You could play in front of nobody and it wouldn't matter.
That's cool. What about like off the field? Once you got into the NFL world, did you feel like maybe, I don't know, weird people were trying to want to hang out with you, or?
It is odd. People will follow you through, like I had a friend who said it was the weirdest thing, and people actually follow you through like the grocery store and stuff. And Buffalo's a much of a fishbowl. It's a very small city. It's more of a region that loves the Bills than it is just a town. And so people know you. Like in New York, you can be anonymous. Kansas City, for the most part, people don't care. Yeah, you're an athlete. It's great. They want your autograph, but they're not. Buffalo was different. Mm-hmm. I just made sure that for me, in order to be grounded, I made sure most of my friends were not football players. They were people I met in everyday life, got along with and enjoyed their company, or maybe they were helping me out, like whatever. And so that way, in order to stay grounded for me, that's what I needed. Because I think what happens is so many players, they come into the league, they spend all of their off time with other players. They get a very skewed idea of what the world really is, and their place in it. And I think that tends to have them think they're more important than they really are, or more famous than they really are. And I think it also tends to poison their mind a little about the community they're in, mm-hmm. and it makes transitioning out of the game that much tougher because you don't have any friends outside of football. So that just was always something I wanted to leave that game at the door when I left. I just didn't want to have that game in my head 24/7.
No, I understand. Well, it sounds like you have a great mindset. I mean,
I just think that I think what happens is people get to the NFL and they think they're going to be one of the guys that stays forever, when the probability is you won't make it 1 year. That's the actual truth. The average is like 2.8 or 3, but that if you take out guys that play more than 10 years, the average drops to less than 1. And if you look at a picture that's taken at the start of the season versus a picture taken at, say, the Super Bowl, because you will take both photos, over half the guys in that first photo are gone. It's a new half. And so you don't always remember everybody you played with. You don't, because you can't, because it's a revolving door.
No way. Yeah.
So my mindset going in was this: if I get a year, I get a year. If I get 3, it's wow, I'm happy. My agent asked me one time, what's your goal? And this was before I had signed, I said, I want to play long enough to buy a condo in Huntington Beach and surf the rest of my life. And I said, I can probably do that after 3 years. And he just couldn't believe someone that was their goals, just to have a condo and surf. But it just worked out because I think I constantly felt like I was going to get cut. I was going to be a failure and I wasn't going to be there long. And I think that's probably why I stuck around so long, because I didn't let it eat me up.
Very cool. Well, like I said, I'm trying to compact my question just because we are on a time limit. But so I understand that went to quite a few Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah, I went to 5 as a player. Played in them all. Started 4 of the 5. Lost every one, but that's not. I mean, yeah, I would love to have won all of them or one of them for that matter. But when people ask me how do you lose, 5 Super Bowls? Well, you got to play them. You got to play in 5 Super Bowls. And I'm the type that if you told me today I get to go right now in the shape I'm in and put on pads and gear and play in another one, and I get a 1% chance that I win that game, I'm going.
That's awesome.
I want to do it again as many times as possible. Nothing beats it.
This might be an unfair question, but did you have like a favorite one?
Sure. I mean, if I'm looking at my favorite one, it might be my last. When I was with the Giants, I was older. Not the oldest on the roster, but the guy who played right next to me was the oldest, and I was second oldest. We were 36 and 37, I think, or something like that. And nobody thought we could get there. It was preseason. I was asked about the talent on the team and did it compare to other teams I've been on. And I said, we got enough talent to win the Super Bowl. And of course they all scoffed. I said, if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be in this locker room. Everybody thinks the pro mindset's to win. You're going to win every game. And the minute you start doubting that is when you get hurt or you get cut and you're gone. So I had said that. They laughed. We were at one point, I think, I forget our record. It didn't look good. We had lost a few, and our coach said, this team's making the playoffs. I'm putting all my chips in. Well, we did, and then we won the playoff games to get to the Super Bowl, and we had a really good defense, and offensively we were capable but not great. And we had it was a good game up until half, or a little after half, and then it fell apart on us. But that's my favorite just because of the circumstances. Being an old guy, being being a leader, knowing it's at the end of your time, so you're kind of at that, you start appreciating things a lot more as you get older. And that was one of them. It'd be the last one, yeah. Super Bowl 35.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I always ask individuals about what is it like to, once your sports career, that chapter has closed. I mean, obviously, what was that? I mean, I know it's very hard, I understand.
Well, I think for most people, I've heard it described as anxiety, and I try to tell them that I've heard it described as depression, but it's actually more anxiety, the things they're describing. I think maybe if it's real early, if you play a year, 2 years, or something like that, I could see depression because you thought you were going to play so much longer. But if you've been in the game enough to where you're, 4, 5, 6, 8 years, it's anxiety because you're institutionalized. Like, remember Shawshank Redemption, and the guy hangs himself because he was institutionalized. The game institutionalizes you to the point where, because they tell you where you're going to live, what city, because you get drafted, and when I started, there wasn't free agency, and then we got it. So you're told where to be every day and at what time. You're told what city you're going to live in. You're told throughout your day, it's cut down into meeting blocks and time blocks all the way to the end of practice, and then training, getting your being in the training room after practice, and then after practice meetings, so that suddenly you've gone from a very tight schedule that's dictated by the institution to, I can live anywhere I want, spend money that I have in my pockets, have all day and nothing to do. Well, that is very troubling. You get very anxious with that, because now the decisions to make or break you, as opposed to if you have a bad season on a football team, you were there, you were part of it. But if you had a great season as a player, but the team stunk, well, it's them that did all that. Well, now you're responsible. You're responsible for where you're going to live. You're responsible for the house you buy. You're responsible for where you are every second of the day. And that is really troubling to some guys. And it was for me. It was for me. I knew where we were going to live, where we were going to go, but what was I going to do with my days? And I quickly found doing some radio work and enjoyed it. And I did a couple of football games my first year for the U of A on a local. And my agent called and said, "Hey, NBC," this was less than a year after I retired, he said, "NBC wants to bring you in for an audition." And I did, and I got the job. I was the only lineman, only non-Hall of Famer that was auditioning, and I got the job. So that was great. I was on NBC for 4 or 5 years, and then at the same time, I auditioned for another show. An NFL Network hired me, and so it just one of those things where it only took me about a year, and I had something besides the wife and kids grounding me. I had another job that I had to be at and had to be ready for.
That's awesome. Well, obviously, I'm super interested in the whole broadcast world that you got into. What was it like to be on the other side of, the lens, if you will?
Well, it's if you are honest, it's easy. Guys sometimes try to protect friends they have, and they might not say bad things about this. Well, that your integrity's gone now. You don't want to say bad things, but you can address the truth and be honest about a team you're looking at or an offense you're looking at. Again, it's just your opinion, right? So, but as an analyst, that's when you're doing studio shows and you're talking about teams and what's coming up. But when you're an analyst for games, which I did most of my career as well, now you're really just you're having a conversation with the play-by-play man, describing why things are happening on the field. He tells everybody what happened. People can see with their eyes what happened. But our job now is it's kind of fun because now you get to teach the game of football. And as long as you make it common tongue, not football tongue, but describe what they're actually doing and why they're doing what they're doing, it's kind of fun. It's like being a teacher or a coach.
Ironically, even this is a sports show. I'm my kind of vice or what anything is like pop culture, news, television, all of that. And so I was wondering your perspective on kind of what I observe now on sports TV, where there's like 7 talking heads on one kind of sports matter. Do you have any thoughts of maybe how the medium's evolved?
Well, I think what's happened is somewhere along the line, they figured out from some of your old local shows that conflict, people like it and they want to watch conflict. So they take ridiculous positions on things and they fight about them. And I often ask, maybe I'm sitting at a bar with a friend, I'll go, why are they yelling at us? These people are all yelling at me. I don't like the fact that it's evolved into a lot of, and it's generally not, there are some players involved, but it's usually a lot of the media voices that, they want to be bombastic and yell at each other. And I don't find that entertaining. I don't watch much of it. I watch live sports on TV. I don't watch pre-games or post-games or any of that because they're not going to tell me anything about the game that I don't know. And they're going to be yelling. Just stop yelling at me. I don't like reality TV for the same reason. It's just, I don't need the drama.
I understand. Well, they're giving me the 10-minute kind of warning. So I always kind of end on a funky, weird note, but I am obsessed with the unexplained or like, you're fine, the supernatural, and was just wondering if you had ever seen a ghost or something really trippy.
The house I grew up in was haunted.
Really?
Oh yeah. Everybody thought so anyways. I had friends that would talk about it. One time no one's home but my dad and I were down watching a football game, and a door slams. We hear somebody walking across the floor out there, and another door slams. He goes, "We're home alone, aren't we?" I go, "Yeah." And so he goes, "Go look." I'm like 10, maybe 12 at the time. I'm like, "Okay, I'll go look." So I go look everywhere. I said, "No one's here." And then 5 minutes later, we hear that other door, the second door slamming. It slams. Footsteps back to the first door, and it slams. And it was like it was kind of this weird thing. We called him Charlie, the ghost. And it was from the time I was a little kid, weird things would happen. The dog would sit at the bottom of the stairs and bark at the top of the stairs when no one was up there. Certain rooms the dogs would not go into. They'd just stay outside and look and bark into them. So it's, the weird stuff that happens that in your mind, you're like, oh, that's a ghost. Who knows? But it certainly seemed like it was haunted.
That's awesome. I mean, did you ever go the next step and research the property or land, or
it was a farm before that whole area was farm, but before that it was all Indians and Native Americans in Southern Cal on those beaches, the Chumash, I think. Mm-hmm. It was a river area, so they were probably all through the area, but no, nothing happened. to my knowledge, but the house was built in what, 1971, so who knows?
Very cool. Very cool. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Let me tell my story and just tell people don't follow your passion. Find what you're good at and develop a passion for it.
That's a great advice.
Thanks. I enjoyed doing it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you. Like I said, I appreciate you wanting to come on here, not knowing who I was or what angle I had, but I really appreciate you coming on and sharing.
It is my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.